Welcome to yet another beautiful day, another beautiful program, another beautiful show on Humanist TV Africa. This is Humanist TV Africa, and my name is Kato Mukasa. I'm a Ugandan lawyer currently here in the United Kingdom, and I'll be hosting this program, which is a lesson in history on our Humans TV. Now, in the studio with me is my brother, our comrade brother, Nana Kufo, who is based in Accra, Ghana. Nana, welcome.
Thank you, Comrade Kato.
Yes, I'm glad to be again co-hosting this with Nana. I was in Ghana in 2014, and I met Nana for the first time there. And Nana has been a very strong humanist, doing a lot of good work in Ghana. And we are together as directors here at Humanist TV Africa. In the studios again is our producer, Dennis Bongole, who is based in Uganda. And remember, our YouTube channel is Atheist TV Africa, and the same name goes for our Facebook page, which is Humanist TV Africa. I think I love atheism, but the TV is called Humanist TV Africa. Of course, humanists are atheists. Now, this is purely a humanist TV, and I'm grateful to our donors who are making it possible for us to appear here. I won't mention names, but of course I have to say that we are being sponsored by a few generous individuals who ensure that we are able to feature here, we are able to have the data, we are able to have the machines. Thank you so much, our donors. We shall continue to do the work we set out to do. Nana, before we go into the history of Africa, how are you doing today? And how's Ghana?
As you can see from my background, I'm living my life by the sake
great.
of.
That's very great.
By the sake of humanity, I'm living heaven on earth.
I'm so happy to hear that statement, and I'm excited that you are happy. I'm very, very, very excited, and I'm grateful to all the individuals that are making this possible. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much for giving us another opportunity to be helpful to our people. Now that today we are going to look at the ancient kingdom, of Kemet, the ancient Kemet. Kemet is today called Egypt, but actually it was never called Egypt. It was called Kemet. That entire stretch, it was big. I did say in my episode that Kemet stretched from the current day Egypt, and it went up to the Nile. And when I say the Nile, I'm a person from the Nile, which means East Africa. Kemet covered Ethiopia. Kemet covered the entire Maghreb region, the entire Maghreb. Maghreb is the North Africa. And Kemet basically covered part of where you are in Ghana. Kemet was so big at one point. It was a very vast, I can call it an empire, but no, a vast kingdom with pharaohs and kings. Now, welcome to the lesson in history.
Before you continue,
Yes.
in high school I did history, but I never heard of the name Kemet. There wasn't anything about Kemet in our history class. I did history, I majored in history, but the ancient Egypt was wiped out from our education system. I don't know.
Now,
So all what you are telling me It's news to me. So I'm just gonna be a student today and listen very carefully to you.
Thank you so much. Now, my
Yeah.
brother uh, in Ghana, Nana Kufo, I should tell you that I also did history the way you did it. I studied history in primary, that is 7 years, and I studied history in secondary for 6 years. None of my history teachers talked about Kemet. None of my history teachers talked about Kemet. I never did history at the university, but all the secondary schools I went to, none of them talked about Kemet. Yet Kemet is the civilization. Yet Kemet defines Africa, and Kemet defines the world. Now it means, as Linda said, and everyone has been saying, this history was hidden from us, intentionally
Yeah.
hidden
Yeah.
from students in Africa.
Yeah.
No one taught me, just the way you have confessed, even me. I did research on my own, and I was amazed to find that Kemet people did so many great wonders before the world woke up. And now we are going to be studying Kemetic history today. Welcome, viewers, to Kemetic history today. This is the history that was hidden from us. This is the history that was never told to us. That's why I invite you to get your children in the sitting room. Remember, you can watch this TV on your screen. There is a way scientists do it. I mean, can I call them scientists? Technology does it that actually you can watch us on your screen. It is possible. There's a way people do it. So I invite everyone, please put it on a big screen and watch this history. I'm going to be taking you through episode number 1. Nana, it's going to be a long history of episodes.
Yeah.
This is episode number 1. Let us kick the ball. Let us just start it. Then we are going to start with Kemet history. But before we go there, I'm going to say that my brother Nana Kufo, I must say that I've read works of several people. I must say that I'm a student just like you. But the only maybe advantage I have is that I've read these works before. And I always say I am self-taught because these things no one taught me in school. But when I became a Pan-Africanist, I wanted to know more about my continent. I wanted to know more about my ancestry. So I researched on my own. And I give credit today to so many writers, especially Sheikh and Diop, who I'm going to be referring to today, and so many other amazing writers have been reading. Nana, I've read books of so many Afrocentric writers, including Caucasians who wrote in favor of Africa. So I've read works of people who were in the University of Oxford, people who went to the University of Yale in the US, people who went to Birmingham University. When you look at their works, guys who have been pro African history, to put it right, are now coming out to say, look, this history was falsified, this history was altered, this history was whitewashed. That's the word they use. So the brown history was removed and they whitewashed it to appear as if it was history made by Greeks, to appear as if it was history made by Romans. Because these guys took over Kemet and owned it. As we speak today, Kemet is occupied by Semitic people, is occupied by Arabs. Now, Arabs have actually owned the Kemetic history to the extent that, as I'll show you in one of my episodes, they have even altered the statues, the images that were left by Kemetic people to appear as if these were Arabic images. They have altered the noses because there's something which distinguishes an African from a Caucasian, an African from an Asian. Sometimes the lips, our lips are different a bit, our nose a bit large, and our cheekbones may be a bit different. The rest we are the same, but when you look at the Caucasian, the nose is a bit pointed and small. And the same thing happens to an Arabic person. But our noses are a bit large and our lips are a bit thick. So that's why it makes a difference when you look at the scriptures, when you look at those left behind relics of human beings. You look at the big nose it has been tampered with. You look at the thick lips, it has been tampered with. They want to rewrite history. They want to make those kings look Arabic. They have gone ahead to make movies to show that actually these pharaohs were Arabic, which is absolutely wrong. And I must say that yes, at one point, Arabs came in and became kings at one point. But they became kings too late when the black guys had already made their own history. Yes, I agree again that the Arabs came, took their time, and also became pharaohs. But by the time they became pharaohs, the African pharaohs, I'm going to be mentioning and showing you photos here, had made their impact for so many years. When the Ptolemy came, the Cleopatra have been talking about, yes, these were Caucasians. They came, they conquered. I normally say they came, they saw, they conquered. Greeks came, so conquered. Romans came, so conquered. Hyksos came, Hittites came, Persians came, Assyrians came. They all came to Kemet. Remember when you look at the map of Africa, I have to make this one very clear. The map of Africa and the so-called Middle East sit on the same tectonic plate. The same tectonic plate. Africa shares the same tectonic plate with Middle East. Anyone can check it and confirm that. Now, it means that we are the same in a way that people could easily cross from the present day Israel and come to Kemet. Because it was, these people sit on the same tectonic plate. The world has tectonic plates. Anyone can check it and see that the Northeast Africa extends. I repeat, the Northeast Africa extends to where the present day Palestine is, where the present day Israel is. It extends there, Jordan, that part of Arabia. So you find that this was part of Africa. Now, I want to make it clear. So it means that for thousands of years, Arabs came to North Africa. For thousands of years, it was a matter of crossing. So these people were the one, were the same. That's why in one of my episodes, I talked about the Moors, who are explained later on with their own kind of topic. The Moors were black, the Moors were mulattoes, the Moors were mixed. You will find a black Moor like as black as Nana, because some of them were brought from West Africa. You will find a Moor who is as brown as, because it's a mixture of a Caucasian and an African woman. And you will find a Moor who is also a mixture of an Arab and an African woman or African man. So the Moors were a mixture. Some of them were very light-skinned, others were too dark, but they were Moors, and also had their own time going and staying. And actually, we said that at that time Europe was, you know, what they called the Dark Ages, and then the Moors went back to Europe and civilized a greatest part of Europe. Put universities there, education there, introduced the bathing system there, introduced soap, introduced street lights, and so many things. Now, I'll talk about the Moors at a certain point. What am I showing right now is that Africa and the Middle East were the same. The so-called Middle East were the same. That's why you hear that in the Bible, Moses could easily come and hide in Egypt. That's why you hear that King Solomon could, and all those kings and queens of Ethiopia could easily connect with the people in Jerusalem, because it was the same place. You could simply walk from Israel and go to Egypt. It was the same. Africa sits on the same tectonic plate with the so-called Middle East. And I normally ask people, if you see there is a Middle East, please, can you tell me the Middle Central? Can you tell me the Middle North? Can you tell me the Middle West? These are colonialists making these things up. There was nothing like a Middle East. This was Northeastern Africa. Northeast Africa that stretched up to where the present-day Palestine is. So the Jews, the Hebrews, are part of Africa. Anyone who can deny that, it's their business. They can do this. Jews are part of Africa. Palestinians are part of Africa because they are part of the same tectonic plate. They could come to North Africa, intermarry. They could come to North Africa and trade. where we say Morocco, Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Jews from Israel, from Jerusalem, could simply trek to Algeria. That's why when you go to Ethiopia today, you find people with Jewish blood. Just go to Ethiopia today, you find people who call themselves a lost tribe of Judah. They are in Ethiopia. They are in Eritrea. In Eritrea, there are Jews in Eritrea who have blood of the Jews. Why? For thousands of years, the Jews in Jerusalem would simply walk to Ethiopia. So that entire stretch, I call Kemet, had people of different skin texture. I want to make this one also clear. They were not as black as me and you, Honore. They were people who were extremely brown. Why? Because of the intermarriages. The same time, Kemet saw the coming of Greek people. Greek people are Caucasians. Kemet saw the coming of Romans. Romans are Caucasians, and they intermarried with African people. So it was a mixture at one point of intermarriages. But remember, as I said, that the Romans only came in 30 BC. 30 BC, which means that there were no Roman blood before 30 BC in Kemet. The same applies to the Greeks. They came a bit late. But who I'm sure of are the Arabs, because the Arabs were on the same, at least those in the so-called Middle East, were on the same tectonic plate. At least I'm sure that the Jews were part of Africa. That one I'm very sure with history and science. I'm very sure that the Palestinians were part of Africa because they sat on the same tectonic plate. They could simply move. That's why North Africa was full of people who were mixed. You can call them Moratos if you want, who were partly Arabic, partly Africans. And these guys formed the so-called Moors, who were a mixture of black people, but also Arabic people. Now, having
Especially
said that,
like
exactly. Now, having said that, allow me.
like Sudan. Sudan. Okay.
Exactly, brother. Exactly, brother. Look at Sudan today. Look at Algeria today. Look at, they were a mixture of Arabs and Africans. But what I want to make sure, to make very clear from the start, is that originally, that entire stretch of North Africa had black people. But as time went on, these black peoples intermarried with the Jews, who could easily come to North Africa. And in fact, the Jews picked their kind of belief system also from North Africa. That's why we have the Coptics today, who claim to have the first Bible. And that will be another kind of episode for another day. But now, today, allow me, Nana, to take the viewers through the history of Kemet. Then let us start with showing what this educated man, a man with 5 PhDs, talked about Kemetic Africa. Then, please, in the studio, let us start with our illustrations, and then I take you through a marathon of photos and explanation of what Kemet was and why we have to take this history very seriously. Then we look at Ant Diop. This man, Antchek Diop, is a great scholar. They have said he has 5 PhDs in different disciplines. And this Sheikh Anta Diop, this guy from West Africa, has written books, which I have read, great books on Africa. And as you can see in that documentary, they say a scholar reveals how Europeans try to hide African history. I'm not apologetic. It is the documentary I'm going to be quoting here. The documentary has a heading which says that a scholar reveals how Europeans try to hide African history. Now, this is one of the major kings of the time. And I'm going to be mentioning these kings. The major kings, Tutankhamun, major kings of the time, who made reforms. One of these kings actually moved from polytheistic, from the worshipping of many gods, to the worshipping of one god, Amun-Ra. Then let us go, because I have so many slides, I'll be explaining slowly. Then let us move. Now, when you look at this image, Nana, shows the first people to stay in Kemet. the first people to stay in Kemet. Now you see, some of them are light skinned, the person in the middle, and the two are completely dark skinned. Now I'll be explaining to you, giving the examples of Ethiopians, giving the examples of Eritreans. They are light skinned, but all the same, they remain African people. Now, when you look at that image, I'm using the works of Sheikh Ant Diop in his book and in his documentary. He explains why this Egyptian is black. And he tells you they were completely, totally dark people in Egypt. And we're talking about the year 2780 BCE, the year 2780 BCE. Now, when you look at that photo, this person is light skinned. He's not black like me. Why? This person is a mixture of Jews, is a mixture of Hebrews, and is a mixture of Arabs and Africans. Now, these same guys still lived in Kemetic Egypt, or ancient Kemet. Now, when you look at this third photo, this person is completely black. Now, it means that there were black people who were completely dark people, and then there were light-skinned people in Kemet. Why light-skinned? Remember, Arab, that part of Arab and Africa sit on the same tectonic plate. So it means that people could easily move from Israel, from Palestine to North Africa. Now that's why you see some of them were light-skinned, very light-skinned, not black like me, but still these were Africans sitting on the same tectonic plate of Africa. Now when you look at that image, then thank you so much, you see there are four images. One is very light-skinned, almost a Caucasian or Arabic. Another one is too dark, like a Nubia from Sudan. Another one is light-skinned, like an Ethiopian or Eritrean. Another one is a bit chocolate brown, like myself. Now, Kemet had all these people together. There were people who were very light-skinned. There were people who were mild light-skinned. There were people who were too dark, like the Nubians, the Dinka, and then there were people who were chocolate brown, like myself. Now, this is the suffix, one of the images that lasted over 4,500 years. The suffix, the nose shows a black person. And what happened, I'll be showing in the next episode how the nose had been cut off to hide the nose of a black person, because it was giving history that, look, the guys who built the pyramid were completely black people. Now look at the gods, how they are being worshipped. This is 10,000 years ago, between 5,000 and 10,000 years ago. People in Kemet worshipped gods, not one god, not two gods, but worshipped gods. But they had what we call the Trinity. The Trinity, the God who created the gods, Amun Ra. They had the Trinity, the gods which created the gods. They had Osiris, the god. They had the godmother, Isis, and then Horus, the god sun. They worshipped the sun. This is Kemetic history. This is ancient Africa. We are tracing where did the civilization come from. Look at this image Sheikh Diop shows in his documentary. When you look at the left, you will see this person who is light-skinned, a photo got from Kemetic history. When you look on the right, you will see a Tutsi lady, a person from Rwanda, who resembles exactly the person in Kemet. The person in Kemet is on the left, has been got from the wall, that image, or from the archives, and the person from on the right is from Rwanda. But the person in Rwanda resembles the person found in Kemet. That's why I explain and tell you that Kemet had people as far as Rwanda is concerned, as far as Uganda is concerned, because it was the same stretch. People would come from Uganda of today. There was no Uganda then. People would come from Rwanda. There was no Rwanda then, and simply follow the Nile and go up north to Alexandria, go up north to Memphis and other cities. Either show them in one of the documentaries. Then let us continue. I'm showing you that the people in Kemet were mixed. Others were too dark, others were a bit brown, others were chocolate brown, others were completely light skinned. Kemet was very mixed up. Now, when you look at this, this is a god. This is a god with horns. We're talking about Isis. We're talking about Osiris. We're talking about Heru, Athom, Thum, Tefnut, Aka, Amun-Ra. These were the gods of ancient Kemetic people. Africans worshipped so many gods. There was a worshipping of a multitude of gods until this person you see on the screen. A worshipping of only one God. Monotheism starts with Tutankhamun. Monotheism starts with this leader who says, no, we are going to change history. We are going to have only the worshipping of one God. And it was influenced by Queen Tiye. Queen Tiye lived between 1398 to 1338 in the 18th dynasty. Queen Tiye, who was a wife of Amenhotep, who was also a mother of Tutankhamun and a grandmother of Tutankhamun and Akhenaten. Now, that woman there influenced her own grandson, Akhenaten, to start monotheism, to reduce the powers of the priests so that there is a worshipping of only one God. The priests had so much powers because they were also revered as gods. Look at the images on your screen. I'm explaining what was happening. The woman on the right is from East Africa. Now, the same image on the walls of Kemet, you call it Egypt today, shows the same person who is in East Africa on the walls of Egypt, the same face, the same long face. When you look at the Gikuyu of Kenya, the Gikuyu of Kenya can trace their history from North Africa and actually beyond. When I say North Africa, I even mean Israel. Israel was part of the great North Africa. I repeat this, Israel was part of the great North Africa. When you look at the Gikuyu in Kenya have similar traditions with the people in Israel. They have similar traditions with the people in Egypt. Look at that photo again. This is the queen I'm talking about, Queen Tiye, 1398 to 1338. The queen influenced her grandson to ensure that there is a worshipping of one God. Her grandson was Akhenaten, the grandson of Queen Tiye. Queen Tiye was so powerful. Women queens were powerful that they influenced decision making in the court system. A queen had a say in the ancient Kemet. A queen determined the next king. These are kings. These are kings that were influencing the affairs of Egypt. A queen determined who became the next pharaoh. A queen had lots of power in ancient Kemet. Therefore, it's very wrong someone to say that Africans never respected women. At least they respected the queens. Now, that's an image of the early human being. And what Aunt Job is showing, that professor of history is showing, that documentary, is that the people who first came to be human beings were from Africa, which is a fact, but also had that shape. And by the way, today, when you look at our shapes when we die, the skull of an Asian, the skull of an African, the skull of a Caucasian is the same. We are the same people. We are completely the same people. So continue, Dennis. Look at this girl child and place her to Kemet. But today, you're going to find this girl child in East Africa. You're going to find her in West Africa. The same people, I'll show you photos of the same girl appearing on the walls of present-day Egypt. It means that Egyptians of that time were not the Egyptians there today. See that photo now. The photo on the right is God from Egypt of Kemetic time. The photo actually on the left. Now look at the photo on the right. You get that photo from East Africa. Now, people in East Africa initially traveled up north. Why? Because advancements, good agriculture methods, there was trade. They could get their food down here in East Africa and go to trade it up there. They could get their cows from East Africa, take them up north. These were merchants, they were traders in Kemetic history. So that's why you find that East Africa is connected to North Africa, and East Africa is connected to Israel and Palestine. That is a historical fact. Now, when you look at this map, thank you, Dennis, for this map. This map clearly shows you what I'm talking about. Now, this is the great ancient Kemet. Look at the countries there. It borders Indian Ocean. It borders Yemen. It has Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, Djibouti, Sudan, then the entire countries of North Africa today. This was Kemet. You see Egypt, they have put Egypt there without mentioning Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, and others. That was the entire Kemet. You look at that sea, the Red Sea there. Now, ladies and gentlemen following us, this is the Mediterranean Sea up there. I'm showing you what I've called the Great Northeast Africa. And I'm saying that Israel of today, Palestine of today, sit on the same tectonic plate with the rest of Africa. So that was the entire Africa altogether. Africa was never as it is today. Now, I want to introduce to you the African kings who ruled Kemet. I repeat this for emphasis, the African kings who ruled Kemet. Remember, Kemet was ruled by Caucasians. Kemet was ruled by Caucasians. Kemet was ruled by Arabs. But let me show you who are the kings who were black that ruled Kemet before the Romans came, before the Greeks came, before the Assyrians came, before the Persians came, and before the Arabs came. Who were the leaders? I'm going to start with this one. Let's leave this photo for some time. Nama. Nama was the pharaoh of the first dynasty. The second one was Zosa. That was a pharaoh of the third dynasty. Look at their photos and look at their face structure. By the way, I need to make up this photo. It can be found in the libraries of the world, including the Library of Britain. You are going to find these photos there. It shows you that the people who ruled Egypt, they called it Kemet, were purely black people. And these people built the pyramids. Look at the third king. They called it Pharaoh. It was called Huni. The third dynasty pharaoh was called Huni. Look at Khufu. Khufu built some of the best pyramids you see today. In fact, Khufu was buried in the pyramid, if I'm not forgetting, the pyramid of Gaza. That's where Khufu is buried. Khufu built the pyramid of Gaza 5,000 years ago. That is Pharaoh Khufu. You can see he's a black man. And these images can be found in every good museum in the world. These were African guys. These were black queens and kings that built the pyramids. Their photos have been discovered. Their images have been actually found in the pyramids. Their mummies, their dead bodies have been mummified and found today. That's why we can be able to get their photos today. Look what Pharaoh Menankule, that one ruled the fourth dynasty. Look at his face. Look at his face properly, and his face will tell you that he was a black man. The thick lips, the big nose. Look at another pharaoh. That is Montuhotep II, which means there was Montuhotep I, because some of the photos were not got, but some of the photos have been got. How were they getting them? They were excavating them from the pyramids. Remember, they died, but they preserved their bodies through a process called mummification. The bodies of these guys are found 5,000 years ago. Their bodies have been found intact, and their bodies show these were black people. Now, this was Pharaoh Montuhotep II, ruled the 11th dynasty. My eyes are not so good, but I think I'm reading it very well. Now, look what Thutmose III, who ruled the 25th dynasty. Look at his nose, look at his lips. This is purely a black man. Look at Amenhotep III, Amenhotep III, who ruled that dynasty. I think that is the 19th dynasty there. You can look at that photo there. Now I'm going down. Then wait a bit. Let me explain this. This is Pharaoh Ramses I. There were three Ramseses: Ramses I, Ramses II, Ramses III. And I'm showing you only the pharaohs that made great impact in Kemet. Built pyramids, introduced scientific methods, built roads, built streets, introduced good agriculture methods. That's why these pharaohs have been singled out, because these were thousands of years in between. Ramses I was in the 7th dynasty. Ramses II, I think I'm saying properly, 19th, I think 17th. Ramses II, you can see Ramses II. Look at the photo of Ramses II. Look at the nose, look at the lips. These were black pharaohs. Now, this is Tahaka of the 25th dynasty. Tahaka. Look at Tahaka properly, is pure. Look at the nose. The nose has been tampered with. These are images got from the statues, got from the created images of these dead mummies. When they died, they could be preserved and put in coffins. I'm going to show you their coffins. Their bodies have been found over the years, and historians have taken photos to show you that, look, the guys who made civilization for the world were actually black people in a place called Kemet. Now, look what the last one here, Semitic one, who ruled the 26th dynasty. Semitic one, look at this photo. Then thank you so much. Now, I was showing you these images to illustrate to you who built the pyramids, who invented street lighting, who invented road construction, who invented medicine, mathematics, geology, geometry, writing. Remember, writing began in this area. Writing began in this area by these very people. Writing began in Kemet by these very people. Remember, the languages that they talked in Kemet were 4 or 5. There was, of course, the hieroglyphics, there was the hieratic, there was the demotic, there was the Coptic, different languages that were spoken in Kemetic Egypt, in Kemetic Africa. These guys, you see with faces there, have been hailed for making a great impact in thousands of years, because they ruled different years. One king could take like 60 years in power, 40 years in power. These kings died at advanced ages, many of them, and could rule for a long period of time, 50 years in power, 40 years in power. And they built the pyramids, they made the medicine, they made the discoveries of all that. Now, this image says that God is black. When you look at your Bible, Daniel 7, God is son, so his son, so are his people. Look at these biblical phrases, Daniel 7 and 9. Look at Revelations 1, 14 to 15. Look at Jeremiah 14 to 12. Why? Because the writers of this Bible basically were on the same tectonic plate. When I talk about the Jews, we are on the same tectonic plate with the people of Africa. But look at the depiction of the Romans. The Romans show you that actually Saturn is black and this god is Caucasian. Now, they have written the history. Yet, the Egyptians were telling that their gods were black. Helu, Isis, Osiris. Now, the Romans come with their confusion. They change the history. They show that actually the god is Caucasian, but the Saturn is black. So they change history. The gods of North Africa or Africa were actually black. But now there's a confusion when I talk about gods being black. People think that because I talk about gods being black, I'm a person who's religious. I'm not, as you may know, of course, as you know already, Nana. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I don't care whether the gods were black, whether the gods were brown. Gods don't mean anything. Gods were fictitious. Gods were simply hallucinations. We are simply excuses for these Africans to survive. Now look at the movie makers. This is Jesus being acting, and these are guys reading for him a script. Now I'm trying to show you that everything was made up. Jesus Christ and all that stuff was made up and acted. I'm going to show another photo where they talk about lions fighting with Jews and all that. It's true. There are lions in that place of the world. There are lions in that place. Because remember, it is the same tectonic plate. Northeast Africa, the great Northeast Africa covered the present day Israel and Palestine. So it is true they had lions in that place of the world. Look what the guys who have been making the movies. They are making Jesus Christ from who? From Jim Gavizeri, an actor. They are making Jesus Christ from who? From Robert Powell. They are making Jesus Christ from who? From these other guys, Diogo Morgado, and others. Remember, I told you in one of my episodes that actually Jesus Christ was made by Romans when they came, saw, and conquered 30 BC century. They began now forming how can we make Jesus Christ. They make Jesus Christ in 325 BC in the Council of Nicaea. Remember Constantine making Jesus, and finally Leonardo da Vinci Ronaldo da Vinci creates Jesus Christ in an image of Caesar Borgia. Ronaldo da Vinci creates the final image of Jesus Christ in an image of a man called Borgia, Caesar Borgia, and Ronaldo da Vinci convinces everyone that this is your Jesus you must be able to worship. Look what the pyramids, then wait a minute to move this image. The Islam is less than 1,500 years old. How about Christianity? Christianity is less than 2,000 years old. How about Judaism? Judaism is much older, is 3,500 years old. How about the Great Pyramids of the Great Pyramids? As I said, are between 5,000 and 10,000 years. Pyramids are between 5,000 and 10,000 years, which means that people in Africa, when I say Africa, I mean Israel, I mean Palestine, and the entire Africa. They are the same tectonic plate. That was the entire great Northeast Africa. New technology before these gods were invented. They built pyramids before these gods were invented. The gods we now worship today, the Christian God and all the other confused gods, they had their own gods: Osiris, Horus, Isis, Utum, Shu, and others. The Pyramid of Gaza, the Pyramid of Gaza has been there for over 5,000 years, and it has the tomb of Khufu. Remember, I mentioned Khufu. I showed the image of Khufu. That pyramid has the tomb of Khufu. It has lasted for 5,000 years. And up to now, what amazes historians and scientists, why does this pyramid survive? What makes it stand? How can a pyramid survive for 5,000 years? This pyramid was built by Khufu himself, who was buried there. It was built in the 4th dynasty in the 26th century BC. And it took 27 years of building. That's history. Anyone can Google it. That pyramid you see there, it has 3 others and small ones. It took 27 years of construction. And when Khufu died, the man behind this building, he was buried in one of those pyramids. The Pyramid of Gaza, or Giza, sorry, Pyramid of Giza, one of the surviving pyramids, 5,000 years. Each stone weighed tons. So people have been wondering, how would these Africans put these stones up? And they were saying they were slaves. Then it's not move the photo. They were saying they were slaves. They were not slaves. They were not slaves. I'm going to be showing you the leadership structure of Africans of that time. They had the pharaoh up. They had, after the pharaoh, below the pharaoh was the government, called the cabinet. After the cabinet, there were nobles and priests. Priests, the high priests, were the gods of the time, worshipped just like the pharaoh. Now, after the priests followed the scribes, if you look at your Bible, you are going to read about the scribes. What was the role of the scribes? They were highly revered in ancient Kemet. Remember, writing started in ancient Kemet. They invented writing. I've just told you the languages in which they wrote. Now, after the scribes were soldiers. After the soldiers were the artisans. Artisans were the guys who built the pyramids. Were the guys who invented the shadow methods, the equipments to use to build. They were scientific, the artisans and merchants. After the merchants, the next layer had peasants. And after peasants were the slaves. The slaves were the last of the last in ancient Kemet. So Kemet had slaves, Kemet had peasants, Kemet had traders, Kemet had artisans, Kemet had soldiers, scribes, priests, nobles, cabinet officials, and on the top was the pharaoh. Then let us continue, please. Now, I've talked about the pyramids. And by the way, I must explain this. Look at the history. Then don't move that a bit. Look at the history. History shows that there were pyramids as far as Sudan. But also history shows you that there were pyramids beyond Africa. Now, wonder, how did pyramids end in Central America? There were pyramids there. How did they go there? They have been found there. Pyramids were no longer are not a prerequisite for Africa. Pyramids have been found elsewhere. But people are saying that those in Africa were ancient. Go to Sudan today, you will see pyramids. You'll be surprised to see pyramids in Sudan. They are there. Why? The civilization continued to spread throughout. Alexandria is known for its greatest library, the Library of Alexandria. When was this library built? It was built by Ptolemy. Ptolemy actually were not were Caucasians, and that was in 285. And then again, remember that the Ptolemy, the Cleopatra team, and all that ruled Egypt for so many years. After some time, but why am I singling out this library? This library had books that have been written during the reign of kings like Tutankhamun, Ramses, Duja, Teti, Khufu. The library, which was built by Ptolemy Kingdom, Macedonia, and others, actually had books that have been written by people that lived thousands of years ago. So when the Greeks came, they found these books in this library. Books have been written by who? By guys that lived 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years ago. Now, that library was built by the Ptolemy, especially Ptolemy II, the second, and it was destroyed shamefully by Julius Caesar in 48 BC. Julius Caesar came and burnt that library almost down. They say much of it was burnt and the books were burnt. But why was Julius Caesar, a Roman emperor, burning the library? Why? What was he wanting to hide from the world? Why was he burning the knowledge? Julius Caesar was a young man, about 30-something years when he died. But why was he interested in burning the library of Alexandria? Yet his people from Rome had studied using this library. Yet the Greeks had got knowledge using this library. Why was Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, why was Julius Caesar burning this library of Alexandria in 48 BC? The library was burned, but it was completely wiped out years later by the Pharaonic invasion. The Pharaonic invasion wiped it out completely. But still, some books remained. Some books were reserved. That's why I've been able to read the books that were spared. But otherwise, much of the knowledge was burnt in the library of Alexandria. And of course, books have been stolen by the Greek, the Romans, the Macedonians had taken away books from this library. They wanted to take this history, which the Kemetic rulers had written. Remember, Kemet had scribes. Dennis, we continue now. I'm done with the library. We continue with our episode talking about Kemetic history. Now, I want to show you that in Kemet, there was farming. People wonder, what was the Kemetic people do? They were doing agriculture. You can see an animal. You can see they have tied an instrument, and this animal is digging. Plowing began in Kemet. Which years are these? These are 3,000 years ago. The method to use animals to dig your farm had been invented where? In Kemetic Africa. They used to get animals and put an instrument, the plow, and dig a wide area. Yet they had hoes and other tools. Now, farming began in Kemetic Africa. The rest of the world were not farming when Kemetic Africa was farming. They were picking maybe food from wherever, but these guys were organized with farming. Then, next photo, please. Next photo, please. We are looking at farming in Kemetic Africa. I want to show you. Look at this kind of trading. They are talking about the River Nile and farming. Remember, I always say I'm a child of the River Nile. I come from Uganda, the source of the River Nile. Now, all the photos I'm showing you, you can see they even have words on them because I've got them from books, from research. These are not my photos. I've simply got them from research. They are showing you the River Nile and farming. Remember, I told you that Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi were part of the Kemetic Africa. Congo was part of the Kemetic Africa. Now, River Nile, Uganda, where I come from, had the source that gave life to Kemet. When I talk about Kemet today, we talk about Egypt. But my country, which had the source, gave life to people in Kemet. Now, cows were particularly important because they added Egyptian farmers with pulling the plow, eating leftover grain and wheat, trampling in seeds, and providing them with milk. What did the people of Kemet do? They were farmers, they were cattle keepers. You can see the images, and you can see that these people are completely black people there. Now, you can see the tools used to do the plowing. That book where I got that shows that tool. You can see that tool. They tie it on the cow, and then this cow pulls this tool, and the tool ends up cultivating hectares of land. Now, as the rest of the world were digging whatever they were using a method, people in Kemetic Africa were using the plows to dig lots of land and therefore putting in rice and putting in all the other sorts of food, wheat and all that. They used to eat bread and all that kind of thing. Now, all these things were there so many years ago, before the world actually knew about agricultural revolution. It had begun right in Africa. Now, look what this method of drawing water is called the Shadoof method. 3000 BC, before the birth of your Jesus Christ, 3,000 years, people in Kemet drew water from a river, which is Nile, which begins in Africa, which begins actually in East Africa, which begins in my own country, Uganda. They were drawing water from the Nile using the Shadoof method. You can see that photo. It is dated 3,000 years BC. Christ is only 2,000 years. We're talking about 3,000 years now. Who civilized who? These guys were already civilized. They were already writing. They had a language. They had the methods of farming. They had rulers. They had a cabinet. They had a council. They had priests. They had armies. This is Kemetic Africa. Another photo to show you the methods used to draw water from the Nile and go and bathe and go and cook and go and wash their clothes. They are wearing clothes 3,000 years ago. So why don't we study this history in Africa? It has been the question we always ask. Why do you hide this history from the children in Africa? Why don't you teach them that their ancestors knew science, knew math, knew geometry, knew physics, knew chemistry before the coming of colonialism? Why don't you teach this history to the children in Africa so that you inspire them? Look at the writing methods. Thank you, Dennis, for this photo. Look at the writing method. I was able to pick it from books which are available online anyway. Look at these are the equivalent of the pens of today, but look at how big the writing stick is. The other one is ink pot, the pot where they put ink. This guy had ink. These guys had their own pens and they could write. We are going to see in the next images how they wrote and the books they wrote, the papyruses and others, and how they invented writing. Now look at what it can write. The ink pot is there. There are versions of long sticks which act as pens are there. And look what the way they were drawing their own diagrams. That's why when you go to Egypt today, you see the things I'm talking about. The question is, look at how this person is writing. Look at how this person is writing. Is writing 3,000 years BC. They are writing before. 3,000 years BC, they were writing. That's why Jesus Christ was able to read. People don't ask, how was Jesus Christ reading? Who had written what was writing? What was reading? Look at that writing. Document got 3,000 years ago from the tomb of Thomsos IV. They found that document. Egyptians wrote. Kemetic people wrote. And when I say Egyptians, don't look at the guys who are there today. They simply came yesterday. Talk about the kings. I've talked about Ramses, Doja, Teti, Nunu, Khufu, Tutankhamun. These were black kings. They wrote their history. They put it down. That's why you can find it in their tombs. When they died, they put these books in their tombs. That's why the books survived. When they came to destroy Alexandria, the books survived because some of them were put in the tombs of the kings. So the books have been found. And look at the writing. Thank you, Dennis. Anyone can see that. Look at how the early Kemetic people wrote. They wrote in 4 or 5 languages. I've been mentioning them, the 5 languages where they wrote. One was the hieroglyphic, the other one was hieratic, the other one was Coptic, the other one was demotic language. And the languages had phases. The first language was the Old Egyptian language. The second language was Middle Egyptian language. The third language was the Late Egyptian language. Then it's continue showing those. Yeah, that's the thing I'm talking about actually. Thank you so much for showing that. The scripts were written in hieroglyphic, hieratic, demotic, and Coptic. They had languages. They wrote in 4 scripts, 4 major languages. The languages were into the Old Egyptian, the Middle Egyptian, Late Egyptian, Demotic, and Coptic. They had languages. They wrote things in languages they knew. They never wrote in Greek. They never wrote in Roman. They never wrote in English. They never wrote in Italian. They wrote in their own language. And the languages have been found there. When you go to Egypt and see the walls, you see the languages written on the walls. It shows that these guys had their own civilization before. Look at agriculture. What are they doing there? Remember, they grow things to do with rice. They grew tomatoes. They grew all these other fruits were grown in Kemetic history. And remember, I told you that Kemet does not mean Egypt. I always say that Kemet does not mean Egypt. Kemet goes beyond Egypt. Kemet covered part of West Africa. Kemet covered the entire North Africa. Kemet covered East Africa. Kemet covered part. Kemet covered part of the present-day Israel and Pakistan because they could simply come in and exchange ideas. So someone may say that was the great Northeast Africa. Where Israel is right now is the great Northeast Africa. It was part of Kemetic history. That's why Moses could come Israel in Egypt. All these people, Joseph could come Israel in Egypt. History shows, and that was true, because Arabs, especially in Israel of today and Palestine, could simply cross over and go to North Africa. It was on the same, it remains on the same tectonic plate. Thank you, Dennis. We are showing you, simply look at the screen, we are showing you the images of how agriculture was done in Kemet. Dennis, continue showing these images very fast because the story is going to be big. The entire agriculture process. Look at how they serve their food, they serve their queens. Look at the images. The images have been found in the tombs. That's why we are able to show them today. These books are there in the museums. And which color are they showing? They are showing brown people. They are not showing Protemi. They are not showing Arabs. They are showing brown people. They are showing dark-skinned people. These were purely black people who built their own civilization. The question is, why is black history being hidden today? Look at that image. These are people like Ethiopians of today. These are people like Eritreans of today. Look at their faces and their noses. These are people who resemble Somalis, who resemble people in Sudan, who resemble people in Rwanda, who resemble people, the Tutsis, the Hutus, the Banyankoles of Uganda. These are the images we see today in Kemetic history. They resemble the people. They resemble the Gikuyu of Kenya. They resemble the Lambo of in West Africa and Southern Africa. Look at these images. Images that have been found on the walls of ancient Egypt, images found in the tombs of Tutankhamun, Ramses, Dja, Teti, Nunu, Khufu. These are all kings where they have been. These images have been found. Now, then I'm explaining to you, to the viewers, the structure of leadership. Look at that pyramid. In fact, I've just showed it, mentioned it. Social pyramid of Egypt. Who was on top? The pharaoh. You can see that pharaoh sits on the top. After the pharaoh, the government. After the government, the soldiers. After the soldiers, scribes. After the scribes, merchants. After merchants, craftsmen. After craftsmen, peasants. Below the peasants were the slaves. That was the hierarchy. There was order, my friend. There was order in Kemet. There is a king. After the king, there is a cabinet. After the cabinet, we see soldiers. After soldiers, scribes. What do scribes do? Scribes do write, do teach. These are the intellectuals. After intellectuals come the traders, the merchants. After the merchants, we see craftsmen, people who made things happen, people who made machines, who made, you can call it the industry, the creatives, the entrepreneurs. Then the farmers are the peasants there. Then the slaves doing the donkey work. Thank you, Dennis. Let us continue with other photos, please. Yeah, I'm still showing you the Egyptian hierarchy. Who was the top? The pharaoh, the priests, the soldiers, the scribes, you know, the same photo praying out. Then let's continue. These are the same photos. Let us do them very fast. The same photos, because I want to show you people. The same photos. King is up, then the government, then the merchants, then the same photos I'm showing you in different style to show you. Now, gods, I will pause it here, then it's a bit. These are the gods of Kemet. Now, look at their gods, and their gods have been preserved. When you go to Egypt, you will find them on the walls. I made an episode, simply going out archives, and I made an episode to show you all these gods. And these gods are mentioned here. Look at their names. They are all there. I told that Egypt had over 50 gods. And when I say Egypt, don't be confused. I mean Kemetic Africa had over 50 gods until Tutankhamun and the influence of Queen Tiye, and of course the influence of Akhenaten. These are kings who said, let us abolish all these gods because there are too many, and the priests are becoming too powerful because priests were like gods, and have only one god. And this one god is going to be one in three: Osiris, Isis, and the son Horus. Isis is the spirit, the mother god. Osiris is the father god, and their son is called Horus. So they said, let us abolish all these gods and build one strong empire, one strong kingdom with only one god made up in three. So when you hear Christians say that their God is Trinity, where did the Trinity come from? Trinity comes from Egypt. Trinity comes from these black people who worshipped so many gods and abolished the gods during the reign of who? Akhenaten. They abolished all the gods and said, we are going to be worshiping only one God. But this one God has three gods. The Trinity starts there. And the mother has given a virgin birth. Then let's continue as I explained. This is how the tools are being made in ancient Egypt. Tools, you can see different tools of farming. And you can see how these tools were employed. Then let us continue with the photos very fast, my brother, very, very fast now. Ancient Egypt, look at the summary of ancient Egypt in photos. the kings, the soldiers, the tools, the agriculture, the pyramids, the physics, everything is being shown there. This is great history. This is great historical lesson for Africans and the world to learn that there was a civilization in Africa. The question I always ask is, what happened to Africa? Look at the methods of farming. Look at the king and the gods. Look at the king. You see that eye? In one of the episodes, I'm going to show you how America has gotten this eye to become an issue in the United States. Look at that eye there on your right. I'll show you money. I'll show you Masons getting that eye from ancient Egypt. This is one of the most influential leaders of Africa, ancient Africa. Tutankhamun, leaders of ancient Africa. A person who said, a pharaoh who said, we are going to have only one God, Amen-Ra. One God, Amen-Ra. Osiris, Isis, Atum are going to make one God, and we are going to be people of peace. People of peace. This is Amenhotep the third, who said we are going to be governing using peace. Remember, I told you that the pyramids were built peacefully. Historians used to say they were built by slaves. No. These slaves, the so-called slaves, built it peacefully because, one, they are given rewards of land and food. Number two, they are building pyramids to praise their kings, to bury their kings. They were burial grounds for the kings. That's why they built them willingly. Pyramids were built with love. This is the farming method in ancient Egypt. Farming method. You can see the cows, you can see the shadoof, you can see the plows. These are children doing playtime. They're on boats. And also creatively learning from their master. You see the master is standing there and teaching them how to use the boats, the canoes, and all that. Now, children were being taught how to work. You can see the master stands in front, and the learners are taught what to do in terms of using these canoes. So they were learning lessons in ancient Africa. The question is, what happened to Africa? If these ancestors were so creative, they were inventing mathematics, they were inventing geometry, they were inventing physics and chemistry, what happened to Africa? If Imhotep was the greatest scientist of the day, where all these other guys, Herodotus and Hippocrates and others, went and learned from Imhotep? Imhotep, a black man, teaching everyone the science. What happened to Africa? Is the question we always ask. That's why in my book I say the death of reason in Africa. If our ancestors, those black men and women we are seeing there in that image, were able to build a civilization, then I'm going to pause here a bit. This process is called mummification. The process we see there is called mummification. What are they doing? I'll enlarge this image. Dennis can enlarge it a bit. What are they doing in that image? Table number one, they have put a dead body of a pharaoh. Table number two, they are putting, I will say, a concoction of medicines in this body. They put a body in an open place where there is sand and heat. Now, sand and heat hit this body so hard, it becomes stiff. Then they get their concoction, their mixture of medicine, well made by Imhotep and other scientists, and then they put this body into, they soak this body into this medicine. When it has been already burnt by the sun and by the sand, the sun and the sand, then they immerse this body into this medicine. You can see the pots down there. This process is called mummification. Remember, through this process, they have been able to preserve almost all bodies of their pharaohs. That's why when they were whitewashing the history, that's why when they were brainwashing the history, the photos, no, the dead bodies of the pharaohs said, no, don't tell a lie, we are here. When the Greeks went to excavate, when the Romans went to excavate, when Napoleon went to excavate, the French people went to excavate, Who did they find? They found black mummies of pharaohs and queens, like Queen Tiye. Queen Tiye was found. I showed you Queen Tiye. Queen Tiye died in 1338. Was of the that is Queen Tiye was of the 18th dynasty. Queen Tiye, her body was found. That's her body. Look at her body, and look at the sister here on the left. This sister is from Uganda, is from Rwanda, is from Ghana, is from South Africa. These are the same faces from Kenya, East Africa. But look what this sister here on the left hand, and look what Queen Tiye, who died in 1338, because her image, her mummy, her dead body was found. Anyone can verify this. The dead body of Queen Tiye was found mummified in Egypt. And that dead body, that's the photo taken from the dead body of Queen Tiye. Remember, Queen Tiye is the wife of Pharaoh Amenhotep, and she's the mother of King Tutankhamun. It is Tutankhamun. Then she is also the mother of Akhenaten, and then she's the grandmother of Akhenaten, who introduced the belief in one God who is made of three gods in one. Now, look at this golden sculptures of King Tutankhamun. I told you the history of Tutankhamun from Queen Tiye. Queen Tiye gives us Tutankhamun, and this is, I call it the coffin. Look at it. It is there. The photos have been taken. These are not my words. There are movies, there are documentaries. You can find this coffin. But how long is this coffin? 3,000 years. So how could people build a coffin that can last for 3,000 years? And in this coffin, they have found the body of King of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. And this coffin, there were books. There were books were found in that coffin, and so many other things. And from these books, the history of ancient Africa was discovered. They discovered, oh, Africa had black people who built these pyramids, because the king, when he died, they put the books of that history with him in the coffin, because they believed in afterlife, that the king is going to go to heaven and is going to need these books to be able to rule in heaven. That's why they were burying kings with books. That's why when they are destroying the library, Julius Caesar wanted to stop the civilization from going on. Julius Caesar wanted to hide African history. That's why Julius Caesar was burning the library in 48 BC. But to his shame, when they discovered the pyramids, when they discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1976, by Americans found it, and then what did they discover? They discovered books showing black people building the pyramids, writing, inventing all these things. You can see that image of you, 1976, that image is found. And lastly, you can see what they have called the Great City of Egypt. The Great City of Egypt. I've got so many photos which I've reserved to show you the Great City of Egypt. Who built it? These black pharaohs built it. The question always I ask is, why did the Europeans hide this history from Africans? It's the question I want to leave with everyone watching this. Why did Julius Caesar burn the library of Alexandria in 48 BC? Why was Julius Caesar burning our library? Why were they stealing books from Africa, written by black people, and taking them to Europe to change them? Why? It's the question I'm going to ask my co-host. Why were the Caucasians, why were the Romans stealing from Africa and at the same time wanting to wipe away the history of Africa? Yet, the great sages of Greece, I love Greece. My son is called Plato. I think I've told you this, my friend Nana in Ghana, that my son is called Plato because Plato was a Greek philosopher. I love philosophy. I read books of philosophers from Greek, but I learned that Plato Aristotle and others came to Africa to learn from great sages of Africa who were black people. So I wonder, why was Julius Caesar burning books which his ancestors had read? Why was Julius Caesar hating Africans? Yet they had given him a civilization. He was a young man at 36 years when he died, 35. Why was he hating black history? Why were the Romans wanting to hide the history of black people? Over to you in the studio. I've done my work. That is episode 1 of African history. I'll come back with episode 2. But over to you to summarize it, my brother.
Thank you very much, Comrade Kato. And you really delve with the matter. To back to your question, I think the Romans and the Greeks, they tried all what they did to erase the history of Africa because colonial masters can't always be putting knives or putting weapons behind your back. They need to relax, and that is where mental slavery comes to mind because they need you to think what they want you to think. So in cleaning your history, you don't have any other option than to fall on them, to seek their advice and seek what the future hold for you from them. So I think they were intelligent because they wanted to rule the world, and in fact, that time they were ruling the world, as your previous episode you explained. They ruled the world, but they wanted to make sure that they will rule the world forever. So, in cleaning your history, you will not know who you really are. You will think that you are inferior to your master. You will think that because I'm really right, because last Saturday the man I interviewed, I will bring the interview. He has been staying in the States for a very long time, and he has written a book, Most by Nature, and I'll advise people to get that book, Most by Nature, Asamoah Yao. According to that book, black people, because we have melanin, also have some sort of melanin in our brain. He was studying biologically what the brain sits on, and it's full of the melanin that makes us black. And he was telling us most by nature, it means we blacks are mostly bad. He's not saying black people are inferior, but most black people are bad. Most black people are bad. He's saying they are as well as white or other colored people who are bad people, but mostly black people are bad. And I will get him into our studios one day, and this debate will go on. He is also an atheist. He is also an atheist, and this debate will will go on. I think he will be the best person to debate this topic with you. So I'm really perplexed right now because I have the book here, Most by Nature. I've read about 2 pages of it, and today I'm hearing this from Kato, which means we knew mathematics, we knew physics, we had our own religion, we had our own system of writing and everything. So we aren't that inferior. We won't say we are superior to the whites or to any other race. We are equal. But civilization indeed started in Africa, and the world must know, and the world must start believing that civilization started in Africa. So if the world knows that civilization started in Africa, I think the world will appreciate Africans. I think the world will involve Africans in all matter of affairs. Right now, when we talk about the UN Security Council, I think Africa doesn't have any permanent seat in there. Recently, Ghana was part, and it was just we were just as guests. So we need a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council because security involves everybody. Why will you think for we the Africans? So with topics like this, it raises the eyebrow. It makes people think deeper. and know their history, that no, Africans, we are not inferior as we think, because that's what we think. In our local parlance, we say Bibini Abu, Bibini Jimmy, which means the black man is an animal. We tell ourselves, that if you compare Ghana, our current of living here, to the United States, everybody wants to run away to the United States, which makes them
Nana, I'm
superior.
going to stop you there, brother, for a minute,
Okay,
just for a minute, for my sake and for the sake of the new entrant. Welcome,
okay.
Comrade Chinama Tauya. Tauya Chinama is based in Zimbabwe, is a philosopher, is a politician, is a social worker. Chinama is the director of Humanistic Africa. Welcome, brother Chinama Tauya. Nana, can you hear me?
I can't hear him, but I can hear you.
Chinama, can you hear me? Tauya. Dennis, Tauya's voice is off. Tauya cannot hear you. Your voice is completely off. We are sorry, we cannot hear you, my brother. We are going to miss you. We can't hear you. And I didn't even make my poster to show you we can't hear you. Then maybe get off Tauya and maybe you can come back again. Now, Nana, back to you. Give your conclusion for the show.
Yes. So my conclusion is we need topics like this to make us know that, to make us aware that no, Africans are also human beings, just like all the other races, and civilization indeed started here, and we must be proud of ourselves and must learn in going forward. We must learn hard as our ancestors used to do back in 5,000 years ago, because we've lost so many. We've lost our writing, we lost our religion, we lost our history. So we have to get back on our feet and find this history and make sure in the future, the generation next to come will know that yes, they are indeed coming from a superior race. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, brother. Nana Kufo. Nana Kufo, I want to make this one clear and to everyone. We are not superior to anyone, and no one is superior to us. We are all equal in our own way. I always say that we are differently unique. Nana, you can't be me, and I can't be you. There are things you can do, I will never do. There are things I can do, you will never do. Because we are wired a bit differently. So whether I'm black and someone is brown and someone is orange and someone is yellow, we are all differently wired and unique in our own ways. Our ancestors in Kemetic Africa were not racists. That's why today I get mad when I see a black man and a black woman being racist. When I see a black man in Africa chasing away an Indian, when I see a black man in Africa chasing away a Chinese, when I see a black man in Africa hating an American, hating an Englishman, whatever. Why? Our ancestors welcomed everyone. Kemetic Africa, I've told you that Africa shares the same tectonic plate with Israel and Palestine of today. So it means that the Arabs could simply cross to Africa. Arabs came to Africa. They were browner than us, and Africans welcomed them. Arabs were part of the Kemetic history. Even when black kings ruled, Arabs were there. But instead, black people allowed intermarriages. Black men married Arabs. Arabs married black women. That's why later on we see the Moors. History is there. We see the Moors were a mixture of Arabs and black people. Arabs married women in West Africa to make the Moors. You can look at history, anyone can Google it. Moors were a mixture of West Africans, mixture of North Africans, mixture of black people and Arabs. And when they went to Europe, they became a mixture of black people, Arabs, and Caucasians. Those were Moors. So Africans, as black people, never discriminated. They are not racists. So we ask ourselves the question, why the racism today? Why did Julius Caesar ban our library? What was he hiding? What was he fearing? Why were other invasions always hitting on our libraries, hitting on our mummies, hitting on our pyramids? Why? They wanted to erase history because the agenda, as you said, was to rule a black man. Now, it was going to be hard to tell a black man that, look, your ancestors were the best mathematicians. Your ancestors were the best medicine men. Himotep is regarded as the father of medicine. The rest, Hippocrates and others, simply came later on. Herodotus and others went to Kemetic to learn from who? From Himotep. Himotep was a black man. But that black man invented medicines that treated 200 diseases. Anyone can Google it. Those are not my words. Black man, Himotep, invents medicine that treats 200 diseases. Do you know that Caesarean method was begun in East Africa? In my own homeland, my own ancestors had Caesarean method. Women could be cut open and babies removed right in East Africa. It was not done anywhere in the world. When the Englishmen came to Africa, they came to my motherland, they were surprised, and they have documented how black men in Uganda, in Buganda Kingdom and the Bunyoro Kingdom, anyone can Google this, how black men and black women would get a woman who is pregnant and she's failing to deliver and cut her belly using strictly rudimentary methods, and the woman doesn't feel pain because they've given her a rica, a certain bit of alcohol that has put her brain off. She doesn't feel the pain, and they cut the baby up and out and sew her with needles locally made, and the woman survives and the baby survives. The English people have written this in their books of history. Anyone can document it that Caesarean method began in East Africa among my people. Now, why don't we study this history? Why do we want to assume that people in Africa were stupid? That they never made a contribution, that everything good came from Europe? Why? Because, as I normally say, the one who is your ruler determines what you study, determines what you see. That's why Julius Caesar burnt the library. Why? The library was full of black stuff, black written history. Now, Chinama, can you hear me, please? Chinama, can you hear me? Chinama, can you hear me? Sorry, my brother, we cannot hear you. Dennis, we are starting this, we are ending this show. Dennis. Nana, can you please say your final statement for the show and actually close the show? Close it.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. But my final statement is we must make all effort to bring back the study of Kemetic Africa back into our classrooms. We must make all efforts to bring the study of Kemetic Africa into our classroom, into our syllabus, into our history books, so that the Black African, the new modern Black African, will know that his or her ancestors were the originators of mathematics, were the originators of the pyramids, or were the originators of chemistry, and most of the knowledge that is abundant on this planet today. I will leave the rest.
Thank you so much, sir, for this show. Dennis in the studio, kudos for you. Thank you so much, Dennis Bongo in Uganda, for work well done. Those are my books. Nana has written some of my books. Those are my books. I have 8 books there on the show. Please go to Amazon, look for Katomo Kasa's books. Look at those books, Stolen Legitimacy, Because I Love This Land, Modern Humanism, Humanism in Uganda, From Mental Slavery to Freedom, and Anna Infidel, The God Delusion, The God Business, and then The Village Thief, Chief with the Thief. I have so many books I've written. Please please support us. Support me by also checking out my collection of books from Amazon. Then thank you so much for being a wonderful producer. Thank you so much, my brother Nana Kufo in Ghana. Thank you so much, my brother Tauya Chinama in Zambia, in Zimbabwe. But of course, network has been a problem for Zimbabwe today. We are so sorry for you. Viewers, thank you so much for watching. Remember, this was episode 1. I'll be back with episode 2. Stay well, stay safe, and stay focused. Keep the hope alive. See you in the next one.